Hello everyone, Terry here. And in this video, we're going to talk about beginning saltwater beach metal detecting. So this is not for intermediate or advanced beach metal detectors. This is for people who have never been on the beach before, who are just getting into beach metal detecting or maybe metal detecting altogether. Let's start with the machines that you'll need for beach metal detecting. And they are different from the machines that most of us use on dry land, dry sand, freshwater, rivers, streams, creeks, that type of thing. For this type of metal detecting on the beach, you need what's called an SMF, or simultaneous multi-frequency metal detector. Now, that is different from a multi-frequency metal detector. Multi-frequency metal detectors offer multi-frequencies one at a time. You must choose the frequency that you want to use. So while it is convenient to have these different frequencies, they do not work simultaneously. They just work one frequency at a time, which you have to manually choose. What's the deal on frequency? All right. Low frequency machines, low frequencies like 3 kilohertz, are extremely good for picking up smaller coin size targets at greater depth with high conductivity, like silver. Higher frequencies are much better at picking up very small targets at intermediate depths, such as 7 inches, 8 inches, 9 inches. So it's good to have these different frequency capabilities with your different machines. However, a simultaneous multi-frequency machine will send out 5 to 50 different frequencies at the same time, allowing your machine to pick up good targets and separate them from bad targets, especially on a wet saltwater sand beach or in the saltwater itself. The reason for that: saltwater beaches are extremely conductive. The wet saltwater sand is 15 times more conductive than the dry beach sand. So when you go from the dry sand, where you're up on the towel line, they call it, and you work your way down toward the water and get into the wet sand, a single frequency metal detector will begin to chatter or send false signals, start to make noises, and make it extremely difficult to hear targets that are intermediate depth, much less very deep. So the single frequency metal detectors, and this is things like the Nocta Macro Simplex, the Garrett AT Pro, what else? What other popular machines, like the Garrett Ace 250? These are all single frequency machines that work great on dry land and in dry sand and in fresh water, but they do not work well on a wet saltwater beach. So please keep that in mind. Okay, so we know we're going to need a simultaneous multi-frequency machine. So what are some of these machines that you should be looking for? I would say number one on my list, especially for a beginning metal detector, would be the MineLab Vanquish 340, which astoundingly is only $200. Now, this is amazing because just a few short years ago, you couldn't get a simultaneous multi-frequency machine for under $1,000. There was just no way. So that they cost of these machines has dropped down so much is really amazing. So again, the first machine on my list would be the MineLab Vanquish 340. Now the Vanquish comes in three flavors: the 340, the 440, and the 540. The 540, I think, runs around $500. The 440 is probably in the 450 range. There's someplace. You can look these up on Gary Mueller's site. Gary is the official supplier for metal detectors for veterans.org, which is my organization that we buy all of our metal detectors through Gary for the vets, and he really takes care of us with free shipping and all kinds of discounts for the vets, all kinds of good stuff. You will see a link to his site and his phone number, email in the information below. But at any rate, that's the MineLab Vanquish line. Just an excellent low-cost, high-value SMF machine. If you want to go up in price a little bit, you can look at the Nocta Macro Legend. Now, you can get the standard Legend, I think, for around $509 on Gary's site. And the, I think with the wireless headphones, I think that one's around $550 maybe, somewhere in that range. So once again, that is the Nocta Macro Legend. And then right in that same price range would be the MineLab Equinox 600. Now, I should mention that the Vanquish machines, the MineLab Vanquish machines, while the search coil is waterproof, the control box is not. It is not waterproof. You do not want to submerge the box, or for that matter, get it wet. So when I'm using the Vanquish on the beach, I'm in my ankles to mid-calf at the deepest with that machine. Now, with the Nocta Macro Legend and the Equinox 600, you can actually submerge those machines. I think they're waterproof up to around 3 meters deep. So, big difference. And in the price, obviously, reflects that. So, starting at $200 for the Vanquish 340, and going up to around $550 to $600 for the Nocta Macro Legend and the MineLab Equinox. There's also another machine on the market, and it's made by Garrett, and it's called the Apex. It's the Garrett Apex. Now, this is another simultaneous multi-frequency machine, and it runs about $440 to $550, depending on the setup and the coils that you get with it. So these are the machines that I would recommend that you look at on Gary's site, treasurecoastmetaldetectors.com. And again, these links are all in the information below the video. One more time, MineLab Vanquish 340, $200. Nocta Macro Legend, around $600. Anywhere from $509 to $600. The Equinox, the MineLab Equinox 600, right around $600. The Garrett Apex, $440 to $550. Just again, these depend on the models and the coils that you get, the headphones, so on and so forth. All right, now that we've talked about the machines that you're going to need, let's talk about another piece of equipment that is just as important, and that is a sand scoop, a good sand scoop. What is a sand scoop? It is a scoop with holes in it to let the sand sift out when you're scooping targets off the beach. On the beach, you rarely use a pinpointer. Most of the time, you just use your sand scoop, and you want a decent sized scoop with a long handle so that you don't have to bend down every time to scoop up the sand. And especially in the water, you're not going to be able to bend down in the water and use a hand scoop. You're going to have a long handled scoop. Gary has many different brands on his site, from Motley, which is one of the newer brands. Some of these sand scoops, and let me tell you, they range from $65 all the way up to $400. So you have to judge these scoops by A, what you can afford, and B, how you're going to be using them. If you're just going to be in the wet sand up to your ankles or mid-calf, and you're not going to really be out in chest-deep water, you can get away with a lesser-priced scoop. But you want to have one that's large enough to actually do the job for you. And this is where being able to talk to your dealer comes in and is extremely important. That's why you can always call a dealer like Gary up and talk to him about your individual needs. Talk to him about the weight of the scoop. Remember, if you've got a 5-pound scoop, that's like carrying around a 5-pound bag of sugar the whole time you're out there metal detecting. And when you fill that bucket up with sand, now you're talking about 20 pounds. So, you got to think about these things. How big are you physically? Are you going to be able to handle a big scoop? Should you just go with a lighter, smaller scoop? These are things that you definitely need to talk over with your dealer. But a sand scoop is just as important as the metal detector itself, because you want to be able to recover these targets. And when you're in the water, there's not a lot of time to be messing around. You've got to pinpoint that target, get your scoop into the sand, and sometimes it takes 2 to 3 scoops to get that target out. So these are things that you need to think about as a beginning metal detectorist and a beginning beach metal detectorist. I want to talk to you a little bit about headphones. Headphones are important on the beach. Why? It's noisy. The beach is a noisy place. Wind, waves, people. It's a noisy place. Even when there's nobody on the beach. Maybe it's sunset, maybe it's dawn, there's nobody there, but the wind is there, the waves are there. So you need those headphones, especially to hear those deeper, softer targets. Okay, and as you get more experience metal detecting, you'll come to recognize these targets, and you couldn't hear them without the headphones. So I want to stress, on the beach, be sure you have a good set of headphones. All right. What else can we talk about? Let's talk about tide charts. You can look up a tide chart for just about every beach in the United States. Why do you need to look at a tide chart? Well, you want to metal detect at low tide. You want to detect maybe a couple hours prior to low tide. You start up on the towel line, the dry sand. You work that area really well as the tide's going down. You're following the tide down right to the water line. And when the tide is out, you have your best chance of finding things that people have dropped or have slipped off their fingers while they're out there swimming. So low tide, that's when you want to go out there and hit that beach. So you need to look at your tide charts and figure out what time you need to get to the beach, how long you're going to be following the low tide out, and then as the high tide comes back in, working your way back up the beach. So again, look at the tide charts. Know when the low tide is happening. You want to be out there maybe an hour, maybe 2 hours before low tide, so that you can really grid and work that beach. Let's see. Oh, now here in New York, for example, you need a permit to be out in the state park beaches like Jones Beach on Long Island, New York. And that permit is $40 a year. Now, that may sound like a lot of money, but when you're out there metal detecting almost every weekend, or some cases almost every day, I've got friends out there that are almost every day out there, and you're bringing home in silver and gold melt $4,000 a year, $40 is not that much. So be sure that you know your local laws. Be sure that you are aware of local permitting. For instance, a New York City metal detecting permit that's good at all the New York City beaches is absolutely free. You don't have to pay for it, but you have to have it, because if you get busted on a beach without it, they're going to take your metal detector and maybe give you a nice little fine to boot. So take it seriously, all right? Now, I'm not going to go into a lot of things like reading the beach, because I'm going to put links to some professionals that I look up to down below this video. One of them is Merrill at Metal Detecting NYC. And Merrill K is, he's an incredible metal detectorist. He really knows his stuff. He's got a ton of videos on his website, on his channel. And I will have several links to his channel down below. So look that up, Merrill at Metal Detecting NYC. Now, there's another page that I found helpful over the years, and it's by a Russian fellow named Sergey. And it's metaldetectingworld.com. Again, that's going to be in a link down below. A lot of his stuff is dated because he's been doing this for so long. But he's got good information on the differences between single frequency VLF, simultaneous multi-frequency, pulse induction, all different types of metal detectors on his site. He's got very good information on technical as well as style, techniques, tips on recovery, tips on cleaning coins, everything. Just everything you can imagine is there. So be sure to look up Sergey at metaldetectingworld.com. Last but not least, please check out metaldetectorsforveterans.org. I set this up to help veterans with a therapy of metal detecting, which has helped me quite a bit with my own personal PTSD. When I came back from the service, I was really messed up, and my brother got me into metal detecting, and it really helped. It really helped me. So over the last year, I've been trying to help veterans with this therapy. And these are veterans that couldn't really afford to get their own equipment. Some of this equipment is expensive. Beach detecting is probably the most expensive form of metal detecting, aside from gold prospecting, which is the most expensive form of metal detecting. But take a look at the site md4v.org. And if you can help us out, great. And if you want to volunteer your time, we'd love to hear from you. All right, this is Terry for GoTreasureHunting.com. And thanks for listening, and I hope this helps you out. Let us know.